Got to as an elderly lady, and the exterior bathroom wall had fallen over and just basically encased her in the bathtub. We went and just pushed the wall up and helped her up, and then me and Nate saw a little girl standing on a pile of rubble that used to be her house, and she was just standing there crying for her mom and her sister. We heard the sister first, found her after a few minutes of digging, and we could hear the mom calling. We wound up having to tear a door off of some of the debris and used it as a backboard, carried the mom out to an ambulance that was there.
The first 3 patients that came to the hospital came by ambulance, and we never saw them on the trauma hall because they perished before they actually got into the hospital. It was very difficult because they're children. Patients came so quickly, and they just continued to come. It's like there was no end. Before you knew it, the whole emergency department was completely filled. People sitting in the floors, on countertops. Rooms that were made for 1 patient would have 4 and 5 patients. The hard part is you would have mamas and daddies coming and looking for their children. So you had to tell them, I don't know where your child is. And so you have these panicked parents begging you to tell them that their children are okay, and you can't.
Thank you so much. He's terrified. I'm sorry.
He's fine. He's fine.
We didn't have some of the basic utilities that we needed to get by. Makes an uncomfortable situation, and the only answer is to try to keep your calm.
He's okay.
I just grabbed him as quick as I could.
Yeah, that's cool. He's not bleeding or anything. He seems alright.
Okay, calm down, but we got her out, okay? She may have a concussion, but we got her out.
I spent about an hour or 2 getting them set up in an uncomfortable position and waiting for the ambulance to show up. Unfortunately, that little girl who had fallen down the stairs ended up developing some bad pneumonia from that night and passed away.
There's been a massive destruction here in the Tuscaloosa area, and all along the way we've seen scores of buildings that have been leveled.
I think it really hit me the next morning that the night video, you just don't know, but that first light of day chopper video was just horrifying.
It looked like it intensified just as it came into Tuscaloosa.
Didn't recognize anything. It could have been any place in the world. I wouldn't know what that was. Even though I've been doing this for 36 years and I've worked through many tornado outbreaks, this was the big one for me.
This is certainly one of the worst tornadoes that I've ever seen.
There's just a van on the side of it.
The fact that we woke up to sunny weather was just very odd because we had just been through such a monster of a storm.
It's a fire station.
We immediately started seeing damage, and one of the first real places that we saw was a fire station.
Oh, this used to be the church.
I looked up and I saw just this gaping hole inside this church.
Oh, and every day they had this sign that was like inspirational.
There was a chandelier that was still there. It was just this sad little church that used to be so grand and beautiful, and it was just crumbling. That was a scene that I will never forget.
You would hear someone screaming a name and just looking to see if they could find their loved one. There was one gentleman who just instantly fell to his knees and just started to pray. It turned out later that he was supposed to be inside that building. That building was a restaurant, and it just so happened it was his day off.
I did see some people who were pulled out that didn't make it, and there were also some people that we felt like we could hear calling for help, and we'd dig down and we can't find them.
There was this young college boy who came in, and he had some really significant chest trauma and head trauma. He reminded me of my son, and I felt like all I could think of was, here is this young man who did absolutely nothing wrong, but he's going to die. And I knew he was going to die. And it just broke my heart.
Number of college students from the University of Alabama live down there. I actually talked with one. She told me that she was in her bathroom when that tornado came through. She says only the bathroom was left standing in their house, and thankfully... As we were out there was a woman who said number of college students from the University of Alabama live down there. I actually talked with one. She told me that she was in her bathroom when that tornado came through. She says only the bathroom was left standing in their house, and thankfully... As we were out there was a woman who said the storm blew her newborn baby out of her arms. Somebody heard a cry in the rubble, and she was determined that was her baby. There, we were digging and moving the bricks with her. But then our hearts dropped when we got to the source of her cry, and it was some kid's doll that had a crying mechanism in it. I don't believe to this day they ever found that child.
Major gas leak on 359 here at 35th Street. We're in bad shape at 6th Avenue East and 15th Street.
The energy level seems to be pretty low today. You can tell fatigue is starting to set in with some of these people who have lost everything. A few people... Now we're doing stories about people who are still missing. And I did a story of little Michaela Edwards. She was a sweet, precious little 4-year-old girl. And she's with some of her family huddled, trying to hold on to some plumbing to protect themselves from the storm. Edwards says the rest of his family survived by hovering in a bathtub. And all of a sudden, 2 of her family members are okay, but they can't find little Michaela. Family and friends searched this area around the clock.
We went to the VA hospital, and where they was, bringing bodies in from the tragedy that happened. And she was there. She was there, and she was gone.
Having to report that after holding out some hope that she may be found alive, I was really sad.
I wonder how far we're gonna have to walk in order to get to an area where cars can actually travel. I don't know, what the hell.
We had no idea of knowing how bad the damage was. We just knew that we had gotten hit in our area. We ran out of supplies, and we decided to go up to University Boulevard, and there weren't houses anymore. Everything was gone. That was the biggest shock. We didn't get hit directly, or anywhere near as hard as I thought that we did.
This was the office.
As we had gotten closer and closer to my apartment, we saw a building standing there.
Oh my God. It's still there. No, there's someone in it. Half of it.
I just kept thinking, I am so lucky. I'm gonna be able to get my things. I mean, we were celebrating.
No, that's the bottom.
Wow. We were not actually seeing my apartment. What we were seeing was my downstairs neighbor's apartment, and I was on the top floor, and the top floor was completely gone. It was just from on top of the world to it's worse than I ever thought.
I don't know what to do.
For a while, I kind of bumbled around in the debris.
Kitchen.
Stuff was just everywhere.
Clothes.
It was just devastating. I kept looking through the rubble.
Oh my gosh, my grandma's pearls. Oh my God.
And at one point, we find my grandma's pearls that she had gotten me.
Wow, they're perfect.
Is all your jewelry in there?
Not all of it, but there's some.
And so that was a moment that gave me a lot of hope, like I could move on from this because I was getting little pieces of my life back.
The tornado was down for about 80 miles. It's approximately at the widest point 1 mile. The maximum wind velocity was about 180 to 190 miles an hour. The death toll in my state that day was over 250, and that is absolutely inexcusable. I've got to take the energy I have and work on preventing this from happening again.
You can be a part of a process that can deliver information that's potentially life-saving, but we had one of the highest death counts ever. So it was one of those days that I don't think I'll ever totally forget.
I worked as hard as I could work. I still had patients die. You feel like I didn't do enough. I could have done something else. And that's tough.
The President and First Lady offered hugs and handshakes to members of a community that has suffered the ultimate loss.
I've got to say, I've never seen devastation like this. It is heartbreaking.
I remember he would keep saying, Walt, I've never seen destruction like this. But I said, you know, Mr. President, you've never seen people fight back like this. Here in Tuscaloosa, it was the people that came to the rescue, and it made me so proud to say that Tuscaloosa is my home.
I was blessed that no one in my family was harmed. I realized that life is so precious. It really changed my outlook on life.
Since the tornado, I have become a firefighter. Being able to give back to my community in the weeks after the storm gave me a direction for what I wanted to do for my life.
When all the comforts of normal life are stripped away, you will see a beauty in people like you've never seen before. You'll see that person who has almost nothing give everything they have to help someone else. And no matter how bleak the situation may be, there's always hope.